When pruning these maples, it's important to realize that there are strong zones and weak zones in a tree. Hi, welcome. This is Jelle from Growing Bonsai. I am a big fan of Japanese maple trees. In spring they need to be pruned. So in this video I'll show you how I prune my Arakawa maple. And pruning maples has one important purpose. The longer the branches get, the more shade the inside of the canopy becomes. And with a shaded canopy, the tree will not set any buds on the inside, and slowly but surely all the foliage will be more and more on the outside of the tree. Because in bonsai we would like to keep the tree small and compact, this is a bad situation. At that point you cannot just cut back and hope the plant to respond to it. Particularly with a cork bark maple such as this one, once the bark is all corked over, buds will very hesitantly appear. So it is important in more mature trees to regularly prune back. When pruning these maples, it's important to realize that there are strong zones and weak zones in a tree. In general, one can say the lower branches are weaker than the upper branches. And when pruning, it's important to keep that in mind. I'll show you the difference by just taking a branch, and I'm going to clip one all the way from the top of the tree. And I'm going to clip one all the way from the bottom of the tree. So here we have the two branches side by side. This is the one low from the tree, this is the one from the top of the tree. And one thing that is very clear, it's much shorter than the one from the top. Another thing that you can see, if we flip those around, what you see here, and sorry about the wind, there's a lot of space between these two leaves, much more than here. So the internode length is much longer in the top of the tree than in the bottom of the tree. Deciding where to start with pruning depends very much on the purpose of the pruning. At this point in time, for this maple, I would like to focus on creating a lot of air and light inside the canopy, stimulate the back budding. And what I'm going to do is I'm just pruning the profile of the tree back to two leaves. If there are branches on the inside of the canopy, I'm leaving those alone. That way, the branches on the inside of the canopy get stronger relative to the ones on the outside, and over the next few years I can use the inner branches to cut back to create a compact tree. So I'm just going to focus on bringing it back to profile, getting lots of sunlight on the inside, and as I do this I'm going to save a couple of the branches. I'll put them straight away in the water so that they keep lots of water in it. Once I'm done with pruning, I will plant all of these up into a separate pot, and I'll show you how I take cuttings from Japanese maple. Working in the greenhouse has one big benefit. Outside it is not all that warm, but here temperatures have risen, and I would say it's probably about 22, 23 degrees. So I've taken off my jacket, enjoying spring weather. I hope you also have the chance to do that. As before, I'm cutting back to profile and I'm removing everything up to the first set of leaves that were created on that branch this year. Important to note, the general rule of thumb that the canopy is stronger than the lower branches is of course only a rule of thumb. If you look at this branch here, it has only two sets of new leaves. The leaves are a little bit damaged. I have a few insects that like to eat my plants, and I typically do not like to use poison. So this is what you get some damaged leaves on the plant. But here these branches have not grown. They've extended, created one set of leaves, second set of leaves, and then it stopped. So this is a branch that will not be pruned. This branch therefore becomes stronger than some of the surrounding branches in the canopy and has a chance to pick up. So while you are pruning the tree, keep thinking about what you're really doing. If it is a strong branch, yes, trim back to two leaves. Another strong one, yes, trim back to two leaves. But here there's another few that are not all that strong, and we could say, well, we just pinch the growing tip out and then stop it from extending, but we're not going to reduce it in strength. And this way we go through the whole tree, and at every single branch we decide, is this a branch that we want to keep, or is this a branch that we're going to remove? Here we have another interesting situation. You see down here there is a branch coming up. At the same time we have very strong branches here going to the side. As this is the top of the tree, one might be tempted to keep this. However, the top of the tree you want to keep fine branching, and we are trying to stimulate inner branches to grow. So at this point, this whole branch is going to go. That way we keep the tree airy and light on top. So you might be watching this video and you say, well, but hang on a second. Why are you only pruning the tree now? Shouldn't you have taken the growing tips out much earlier in the season? Because all the videos tell us you prune the growing tips out as soon as the leaves start to appear, and you can use a pincet to take the tip out. And although that in theory might be true for very mature, well-developed trees with very fine twigging, this tree is not at this stage. Yes, it is very old, the bark is mature, but the branch structure has not kept up with development of age. So what I am trying to do with this tree is I've repotted it in early spring, and I've now let it grow for a couple of weeks so that all the roots have had a chance to regenerate and get the tree established again. And from here on I am just going to let the tree grow new branches. At this point the pruning is really aimed at ensuring there's light on the inside of the tree, creating young fine branches deeper in the canopy, so that next spring I can decide how am I going to develop this. So over winter or early spring I will be wiring this tree out, then I'll be making branch selections, and at that point I'll decide on the future for this tree. So right now this is really a measure to, on the one hand, get lots of strength in the tree by letting the branches grow for a couple of weeks, but not letting it grow so long and so tall that I lose my fine twigging on the inside of the tree, because that's what I'm going to build my tree with next season. When pruning, make sure that you leave a little bit of a stub, because it's just easier, but not too much. The little stubs that you leave behind are an easy way to enter for fungal infections. So I try to prune it off and leave it maybe half a centimeter or maybe a centimeter on there, and once that dries out I'll peel it out somewhere during the summer on a lazy afternoon. So once again, the lower branches are weaker than the upper branches, so when pruning it is quite okay to, instead of leaving one pair of leaves, leaving two pairs of leaves here and there, when you feel that it would help the development of the lower branch. Here this branch in general is thin compared to everything else, so I'm going to give this a little bit more power and I'm leaving a little bit more foliage on it. Still, as we were going to take cuttings of these, keep in mind that the lower branches are not as suitable as the upper branches for growing cuttings. What you're looking for in cuttings is a strong, healthy whip that has been growing up for all season and is healthy without a lot of aphids, a lot of damage on it. So this would be a reasonable candidate, but it's not great, so I'm just going to clip it off and leave it. Here we have one of our friends. I don't really want to harass it all that much, but I would like to show it to you. So this is the friend that has been eating our leaves, and I'm pretty sure there's lots and lots of them in my plant. In fact, you can see a little aphid crawling on this branch as well. Trees are just part of nature, and I let the animals on there as well. I'll put this one back in the garden. As I said, I'll do a more structural pruning and wiring of this tree later in winter or in fall. And if you like to see that update, then maybe it's an idea to subscribe to the channel. I will be posting quite regularly on this tree, but also on other trees, on all sorts of topics related to growing bonsai. So feel free to join the channel and drop me a comment. I think that is it for now. I'll reposition the camera and show you something. We're now looking into the tree, and what you can tell here is that these branches, they did have buds, but they didn't really grow. And this is a problem with some of the Japanese maple, amongst which the Arakama. If there's not a lot of sunshine on the branches, then in the next spring you might lose those branches. I hope that with the pruning that we've just done, I have taken away part of the problem, but to be certain I will take away a few more branches here on the top to encourage light on the inside of this branch. So this one is done.